So you want to try to make your own areas. You want to try to go the primitive route, but you don't know how to get this to this right here. Stick with me. I'm going to show you step by step how I do it. This is just privet. That's all it is. Just old hedgerow brush to make good straight areas. Y'all stick with me. Jump my pocket. Let's go hang out on the river for a little bit. Hey y'all, I was going to shoot you a little video. This job site that we've got going, it's got a whole lot of this little old privet shrubs all on the fence rows and stuff on it, and I've been cutting and making a few arrow shafts. Got to take advantage of good arrow shaft material when you see it. This stuff's got a lot of stuff that's in that size range where it's been cut. It's got the shoots coming off that are pretty straight. I'm going to take you on a little video right here coming through from cutting it to straightening it, peeling the bark, and finally straightening it through the drying, and just show y'all how I make my arrow shafts. I'm cheating today. I'm getting a little old and fat and lazy. I like my cutters. But anyway, let's see. This one here is on the light side, but I think I can make an arrow out of it. I usually shoot for stuff about the size of my fingers in that range, and that usually works pretty good. A lot of times I've noticed a lot of them, these little side shooter limbs that I'm cutting off, it's better if you don't have as many of those on there. The slicker that is without limbs, the better off you're going to be as far as straightening and holding straight. Let me see, I've got one more right over here, I think on the back side of this. I think this one is just big enough. It ought to do a lighter spined one. And I'm cutting these a lot longer than what I need. After I get them dried and straightened and hardened, we'll come through and I'll spine them and then cut them off. It gives you a little adjustment sliding it back and forth to get the proper spine for what poundage you're looking for with the bow. So I try to start out a little bit longer than what's necessary. I'm thinking I saw one over here that would work. And I might be wrong. I think I'm gonna just get those three. Pretty much, if you look at these, they've got little curves in them. They got little twists. They're not perfectly straight. I'll be working all that through, and as I go, and I'll show you. I'll take you down from this to a ready shaft, ready to go. Just stick with me. Here we go. All right, y'all. I'm gonna show y'all something here. Now, this is the stuff I cut yesterday. This is day 2. When I got done cutting it, I went through and I bumped it. Which you do is you go down this arrow shaft, and you can see all the bends in it. And I'm trying to get y'all, I hope this camera angles where you can see. I'll try to look at all the little bends in it. And this is still green. I just cut it yesterday. Yesterday evening, right after I cut it, I went through, and you go and you just bend it. You look and you go, okay, there's a bend here, this needs to straighten. And what'll happen is when you're doing it with a green, you're gonna bend it to where you want it straight, but it's not gonna hold. And each day, as you bend this and it dries, it'll hold a little bit better and a little bit better, and it'll start keeping that straightness that you put on it. Now, it's funny because if you look, I bumped all these right when I got done yesterday. When I got, before I put it up. Now, I went through this morning and I started bumping these again. And if you look, this small one, I already bumped it and it's starting to hold a little bit. And this one is starting to hold pretty good too. This one still needs a little bit more work on it. I just started bumping it when I realized, remember that I was doing the video for you, and I was like, oh, I need to get this in where y'all can see what I'm doing at this stage. But these smaller ones are already starting to hold just in this warm weather we got going right now. Just overnight drying with the bark on. I leave the bark so they dry a little slower. That way they don't check. And I'll usually leave the bark on for a couple of days, for the first 2 days of this process. And what I do is I keep these handy. I just keep them in my truck, and where I can go out just when we take break or at lunch or whenever I get my truck and see them, I'll run through and I'll bump them all real quick. And you can see it didn't hold 100%, but it's getting there. It's starting to hold just a little bit. This is just drying overnight. And what will happen is, now see, this one is a little bit thicker. This will be a heavier spine. This will be a better spined arrow. When it gets dried out, it'll be a heavier spine, but the heavier the arrow, the longer it takes for it to dry. So this one is not really holding. It's bending, but every time you bend that while it's green, it puts that memory in it, and it gets where it holds a little bit straighter and a little bit straighter. So what I'll do is I'll go through here and I'll try to video this a few times during this process here. Then I'll show you peeling the bark, and then and show you all the way through to a finished shaft. We'll just take it a step at a time here. I don't know how, I'm gonna try to make this video as short as possible, but I want to show you right how to do it. So that is the first step. I'll do this about twice a day, and even these that are starting to hold pretty good, I'll still be constantly tweaking on them just a little bit. Every time I get the others out that are thicker that aren't holding, I'm still working on these. And it's looking like these first two, they're going to be almost arrow straight by the time I even peel the bark. But even after you peel the bark, you still need to go over them. Once I peel the bark, you do it. I make sure and straighten. Look at them 3 times a day at least, just trying to make sure that they're not, because once you get the bark off, they start drying really fast. So then you gotta really keep an eye on them, make sure, because if they set as that final drying, then you gotta heat straighten them. And I'm having really good luck with these. It seems like the ones that I'm straightening as they cure like this, it's a little more constant type maintenance, but so far I've had good luck with them holding. But we'll cross that when we get to it. I'll be back with you with the next step. Hey y'all, I'm back now. It's been a couple of days. I was doing a video going through day by day, bumping these out, but I think I pretty much will show you what I was doing on the last little clip that I filmed. These are getting pretty straight now. I mean, they're holding when I do it pretty close, so they're getting dry. This is the 3rd day. So at this stage, I like to peel the bark. And basically, I just take a pocket knife, and these are still green enough after just 2 or 3 days that the bark just comes right off. And you can still see the green underneath the candium layer, so that lets you know that it's still green, so it's still not dry all the way because of the bark. But at this point, you just come through and clean it up real good. I'm not digging down into the wood, I'm just taking that layer off the top. And I'll go full speed for you. I can show you it's pretty fast little part right here. It doesn't take very long, a little bit of elbow grease. And when I get these all peeled, then what I'll do is I'll give them another good solid bump, run through and get them as straight as it'll hold right then. Now, once you get to this stage, you want to try to pick these up and straighten them. I shoot for like 4 or 5 times a day, because the more you do it, once the bark is gone, it's going to dry really fast. Within about 2 days, it's dry. So today and tomorrow, I will really be handling these a lot, pulling them out, straightening them. And if you feel this, when you peel the bark, you can feel the moisture, you can feel the dampness to this shaft. When it's dried out, whatever you're bending it won't hold anymore. It's going to get really stiff, but you can also feel it'll be really dry to the touch. And this thing will be half the weight it is right now with the bark on. Once the bark's off and it's dry, it really lightens up a lot. But you just want to keep straightening. Just every time you think about it, try to bump it around, get all the twigs out of it, because you just got a couple of days to mess with it once that bark's off. But I'm gonna peel these. One more thing, this one's got a lot of little side stems where it had a little bit bigger limbs coming off of it. And at this stage, I don't try to get that perfect, but I will kind of take it, the majority of that off, just the big stuff sticking out. And then after it's dried and cured, then you can come back and light sand it. And I'll show you what I do on that too. But this is, it's just these little hangs right here. See, I'm hitting my knife, so when I try to sharpen,
it makes it hard, so I'll take my knife and just knock that down. And now, and that makes it, as long as you can slide your knife up and down over it like that, that's good enough right now. Once it's dry, I don't like taking too much of this off until I'm done straightening, because you can weaken it by cutting too much off too early, and you might break the shaft. So I don't take any more than what I have to off at this point. But anyway, that's it for that. This is a quick, easy deal. It doesn't take long to do, and I'll get you back in when I'm a little bit further along. Thanks. All right, I've got the bark peel here, and I have gone back over these again after one more time straightening, and you can see they're getting pretty close. At this point, I'll straighten them just a little bit here and there. Every time I pick them up, bump them around, and just trying to steadily look at them and get them as close as I can now to being straight. But they're really holding, and that's where I like to wait until they're at that point where they're starting to hold before I start trying to really do the fine-tuned button. One thing that I want to show y'all, this one right here, this little sampling, little spread, had a skint mark on it where it had gotten injured at some time or another before I cut it, and I didn't see it when I was cutting it until after I'd already cut it, and I decided I was going to go ahead and try to do it anyway. And but as I was straightening it a while ago, bumping it, it's cracked and pulled a splinter up. So I'm not going to throw it away. I might be able to. It's just a surface splinter, but usually I avoid damaged shoots just because of that. They have a tendency, it'll be a weak spot, just like when I'm making my bows. If you've got a weak spot in there where the grain's messed up on that, it leaves a potential for damage where it can not hold up. And you know, it's not a lot of work goes into these, but there is a little bit. It's time consuming. It's a deal that takes time to go through these step by step over several days, and you don't want to waste your time or kill a shoot that might potentially not make a good arrow shaft. So just something to give y'all a heads up. If you see like damaged skint spots on the shoot before you cut it, it's better just to avoid those. I'm gonna see if I can salvage this one, but we'll just see. I'm gonna go ahead and straighten it for the next couple of days. I'm gonna keep bumping them straight until I know they're totally dry, and I've got them cured out all the way and straightened. And then I'll pick back up with you, and I'll go and just show you how I finish it out, sand out the shaft. Not a whole lot to it from here. We're almost done.
All right, this is the afternoon after I peeled the next afternoon after I peeled the bark. I've been straightening on these, and they're getting where they're holding really, really good now. Basically, at this point, all I'm having to do is I'm still going to check on them for another day or two just to make sure that they hold. As they're drying, they can kind of bend as they dry, and I just kind of correct it as it's going, as it's drying out, just to make sure it doesn't get crooked on me in the meantime. But pretty much, well, where I had these little knots that we knocked a little bit off the first time, all we're going to do is at this point come back, and you just take it down a little bit further. You don't want to take it all the way. Well, that's what the sandpaper is going to do for us here in a second. You want to just get it down low enough that sandpaper will ride across it smooth and not hit a high spot. And I'm just taking like a fingernail thickness off the top of that when I do this, and it's still got the hump in it a little bit, but I'm taking a little point off of it. And I like doing this. It makes it a little bit easier on the sanding part, because this don't take just a second to do, running down through there. But what we'll do when I get this down, we're going to take that sandpaper. I've got a pad off one of my sanders from work. It's got 120 grit, and I find that's about the best. You could use 80 grit, but you got to be real careful with it, because you can take too much off too quick if you're not really watching 80 grit. You could use this. You could go down to 220 if you wanted to. It'll just take longer to sand it. 120 just seems to be the one that just works the best to me. But you got to remember with these primitive arrows, you're not looking for, it doesn't have to be just perfect straight like a fiberglass aluminum arrow, store-bought cedar shaft. Usually when you're hunting with the primitive bow, you're looking at that 15 to 20 yard range when you're shooting at animals. You know, for me, it's a hunting ethics type deal. I want to shoot in a range that I feel like I can make a good, comfortable, quick kill on an animal. If you get out very far with a primitive bow, if you get out past 20 yards, you're just taking a gamble. Not to say you can't kill stuff. I've known friends that reached out 25, 30 yards and hit stuff, but I've got deer on video at 18 yards from last hunting season that in the distance and the time I let go of the string, they jumped the string. In 18 yards, that deer dropped its full body height in the time before that arrow got there. So when you get out there and you're hunting with one of these bows, of course, now that was a unique situation. The deer turned to me as I drew. My motion caught its attention, and I went ahead and took the shot anyway. And then my bow hit the blind, made a big racket, so it had two different things that had it already keyed up before it hit, so it was full, at full alert, it dropped its full body width. Now, if you catch a deer flat-footed, it's a different story. They don't always, some of them won't even jump the bowstring. A lot of that's just whether the good Lord was going to let you kill a deer that day or not, too. But at this point, I just take this sandpaper. Now, you don't have to use round pads, just little squares will be fine. Any sandpaper you can get your hands on, and I just go over it quick like this. And I'm not trying to take just every little bit of that. You can still feel these humps a little bit, but as long as it's smooth enough to slide along your hand and not disrupt it, coming off your knuckle, and not disrupt the flight, you'll be okay. If you have mixed feelings about whether you've got it or not, you can always finish the arrow, shoot it, and see. And if it acts like it kicks a little bit, then you can go back and sand the shaft a little bit more if you feel like it needs it. But usually when you get it, the majority of it off like this, and of course it whitens that, takes the remainder of that candium layer of the inner bark off when you do this, and it gets you down with a really pretty arrow when you do it. But this is it, y'all. I told you it's pretty easy process making this. I've been making them like this for a few months. They seem to be holding really good. I've always just let them dry straight, bundled up, and then peeled the bark dry and heat straighten them. This is a lot faster for me than trying to straighten it with heat later. See, the little bit of heat that I put on that just then changed it a little bit. So now I got to tweak a little bit, but it's just a matter of small things done to it. But you should be able to make an arrow like this. I might finish this thing out and put fletchings on it, knock it, and shoot it for you. I don't know, but if not, I've got a lot of projects going right now. I got a lot of other things I want to finish and show y'all anyway. But if not, that's all there is to it, the shaft. And that should get you with a hunting arrow that will do it. Of course, it's got to, you need to be spined for your bow, and that's a whole different topic for another day. But this should get you in the hunt and get you going. Hope you learned something. If you did, hit like, subscribe, ring the bell. You know the deals. If you got anything to add to this, if you likes, dislikes, things that you found, hit the comment, let me know. I like hearing ideas from other people. That's how we learn. Hope y'all learned something. Hope y'all have a great day. God bless.